Most people think inventions are born in laboratories, from the brilliant minds of geniuses chasing greatness. But some of the world's most iconic creations weren't planned at all. They were accidents, born from failure, desperation, and strange twists of fate. This is the true story of how chewing gum was invented, and it all began with a fallen dictator. In the mid-1800s, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna was one of the most powerful and controversial a decorated general, a cunning politician, a self-proclaimed Napoleon of the West. His life was a whirlwind of power, glory, and conflict. He led armies, signed treaties, and ruled his country with an iron fist. But power, as history shows, is a fragile thing. After years of political chaos, rebellions, and a humiliating defeat in the Mexican-American War, Santa Anna's reign finally crumbled. He was overthrown, disgraced, exiled, stripped of his authority, and banished from his homeland. He fled to the one place in the world that welcomed failed rulers and strange ideas alike, New York City. Imagine him, a once mighty figure walking the cobblestone streets of a foreign land, a ghost of his former self. But Santa Anna didn't arrive empty-handed. With him, he carried something unusual, something he believed was his ticket back to power and fortune. It was a strange, sticky, rubbery substance called chicle. Chicle was a natural sap, harvested from the towering sabina trees deep in the jungles of the Yucatán Peninsula. For centuries, the indigenous people of Mexico had chewed it. They used it to clean their teeth, freshen their breath, and quench their thirst. It was a simple, everyday material, part of the fabric of their culture, but Santa Anna saw something different. He had a much grander vision. In the bustling workshops of 19th century America, rubber was the material of the future, but it was expensive and difficult to source. The Industrial Revolution was roaring, and America needed a cheaper, more accessible alternative for everything from carriage tires to rain boots and machinery parts. Santa Anna was convinced that chicle was the answer. He believed that if he could just find a way to vulcanize it, to harden it, he could create a revolutionary new form of rubber and build a new empire of wealth. So, he did what any desperate exile with a strange idea would do. He looked for an inventor. That inventor was Thomas Adams. Adams was a classic New York tinkerer photographer, an experimenter, always searching for his next big breakthrough, but never quite finding it. He had a workshop filled with half-finished projects and a head full of dreams. When Santa Anna, the exiled Mexican dictator, approached him with a ton of strange jungle sap, Adams saw an opportunity. It was bizarre, yes, but it was also a chance to finally make his mark on the world. Together, the fallen general and the struggling inventor began their ambitious experiments. They set up a small laboratory and went to work. Day after day, they heated the chicle, trying to change its properties. They stretched it, hoping to test its elasticity. They mixed it with other chemicals, trying to unlock its hidden potential. They poured it into molds, attempting to shape it into something solid, something useful. They tried again and again and again, but the chicle refused to cooperate. It would not behave like rubber. No matter what Adams tried, the material remained too soft, too sticky, too weak. It would stretch, but it wouldn't hold its shape. It could be molded, but it would crumble under pressure. The grand project to create a new rubber for tires was an unmitigated disaster. Defeated, Santa Anna eventually gave up. His dream of a chicle-based industrial empire vanished. He abandoned the experiments, sold off his remaining supply, and faded back into the shadows of history, a disgraced ruler chasing one last failed dream. But Thomas Adams stayed behind. In his workshop, surrounded by the remnants of their failed venture, sat one last unsold block of chicle. It was a monument to his failure. One evening, frustrated and on the verge of giving up himself, Adams was watching a young girl buy a piece of paraffin wax gum from a local drugstore. It was cheap, tasteless, and popular. A thought sparked. He looked at the useless block of chicle on his table. He remembered the stories Santa Anna had told him about how people in Mexico chewed it. Without thinking, he did something completely unexpected. He cut off a small piece of the raw chicle, placed it in his mouth, and started to chew. And then, something strange happened. It didn't crumble like wax. It didn't dissolve like sugar. It didn't harden into a rock. It stayed soft, elastic. It had a pleasant, chewable texture that paraffin wax could never match. In that quiet, simple moment of curiosity, Adams realized the profound truth. Chicle was never meant for machines. It was meant for people. He hadn't failed to make rubber. He had accidentally discovered the perfect chewing gum. In 1871, Thomas Adams produced the first commercial chewing gum. He called it Adams New York Chewing Gum and sold it with the simple tagline, snapping and stretching. It had no flavor, no sugar, no colorful branding. It was just pure, unadulterated chicle. And people loved it. The novelty was irresistible. Soon, Adams began experimenting again. But this time, he was on the right path. He added licorice flavor, creating the iconic Black Jack gum. Then came Tutti Frutti, the first fruit-flavored gum sold in a vending machine. Factories soon replaced jungle harvesting operations. Colorful packages replaced simple blocks of sap. Mass production began, and chewing gum spread across America, then the world. It was given to soldiers in their rations to ease tension. It was chewed by baseball players in the dugout. It became a symbol of Hollywood cool, a staple for teenagers, and a habit for millions. An entire global industry, born from exile, failure, and one curious, desperate bite. And what of Santa Anna, the man who brought chicle to New York, the catalyst for this entire story, never saw a single penny from the chewing gum empire. He died in obscurity, remembered by history as a failed and tragic dictator. But without his defeat, without his exile, and without his wildly incorrect dream, modern chewing gum might never have existed. So the next time you unwrap a stick of gum, take a moment to remember its unlikely journey. Some of the greatest things in our world are created by meticulous design or a flash of genius. They are stumbled upon, they are born from mistakes, from failures, and from people who refuse to give up on seemingly useless ideas, until they discover what those ideas were truly meant for all along. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to like and subscribe for more hidden histories.